Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah, this has got me as a Bonnie Mutson. You might be reading me as.
I saw that. You want me to rename you?
Please.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
I thought you looked just fine as a Bonnie, Bob.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I feel like a Bonnie.
We got you covered. I was just checking, Karen, there's just a couple, I'm not sure I saw Katie. Miss her.
Haven't seen Katie yet. Feel like we have
Is everybody else?
someone else here.
Is Ron? Oh yeah, Ron's there. Bob, Mark, Elaine, Dina. Yeah, so I think Katie might be the only one. And then you already heard that Spencer had a family emergency and is not going to be able to make it.
I saw that. And then do you know if Kurt was planning on joining us this evening?
I believe so. I haven't heard anything. And so I'm expecting him to join us.
I didn't hear from Katie otherwise.
No, I was just, there's a few people joining here still. So I don't know if you want to wait a moment.
Probably give maybe like one more minute and then go ahead and get started if that works for everyone.
Okay.
I want to be respectful of everyone's time.
Okay, Eric, I'll ask. Steve, what are you doing?
Not too many people on my screen. I'm like,
My launcher is broken. I'm trying to fix it.
It's that Ace apron that makes you the authority there.
What's that?
It's your Ace hardware apron that makes you qualified, right?
I'm over at my rental house I've been working on for the last year now, so we have renters moving in by the end of the month, so I'm under a time crunch.
there's certain things, appreciation that you can have for Zoom meetings.
I just hope we don't lose him out the back of that chair during the middle of this.
No, I absolutely hope we do, and it's being recorded.
No,
That's going to make us 10,000 at least. That's.
Do they still do America's Funniest Videos?
Oh, yeah.
We'll make it on America's Funniest Home Videos, right?
That's going to be an alternative funding source for the budget if he falls out of the chair.
Make that some sort of scholarship, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Karen, I should just get this.
Need one more piece.
It's already out of control, Karen. Sorry.
There you go.
It looks like Katie's going to be joining in just a minute, but we could probably go ahead and call the meeting to order. And then, does everybody have a copy of the May 20th agenda?
Yes.
Do we just go ahead and approve that agenda, or does it need to be popped up in the presentation for approval, Kevin?
Nope, you can just ask for motion for approval.
I
Okay.
move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. And,
You can ask for opposed, but I don't know.
oh, any opposed? Okay, so moving on to agenda item 4, public communications by Sherry O'Connor.
So we advertised a deadline of last night by 5 o'clock for public comment. We didn't receive any emails from anybody, so we can just skip that section.
Oh, excellent. And it looks like the next item on the agenda is the question and answer document that Sherry had emailed to all of us.
So I emailed it to the budget committee. I don't know if you want me to pull it up on the screen or just go through there were 3 questions, and so we have 3 questions and answers. I don't know if I can share my screen, I can pull it up.
I think yeah. Yep, there you go.
Excellent. Thanks, Sherry.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so the first question was, how much is budgeted for the new reading adoption series and where does that funding come from? So I briefly talked about this. This question was submitted by somebody that didn't attend the last meeting. And so I had communicated that the adoption is estimated at this point to cost $1.5 million, and it's scheduled for adoption next spring. And we have already reserved $300,000. And then there's in the proposed budget for 21-22, there's a transfer from the general fund out of general fund reserve savings from this year to the textbook adoption reserve. So there'll be approximately 800,000. And then the district will need to budget additional funds either 21-22 or 22-23 once they have the final costs and before the vendor payment is made. And then the options, the question, where does the funding come from? The options, there's several options, and the district will be reviewing those options next year. Depending on the availability of these funds, they could use ESD service credits. They could use additional revenue from ORVA. There's been an agreement with ORVA was being worked on by the superintendent. General fund reserves, if it looks like there's going to be reserves, that could be used. SIA grant funds, Kevin included it in Plan B. So depending on how the spending is going in the SIA fund, that could be potentially used, and or additional state funding beyond 9.2 billion. That's the level that we budgeted the proposed budget at. And based on the state forecast that was released yesterday, it looks very, very, very good. And Kevin might want to speak to that, or I can speak to that later, but it does look like there will be funding beyond 9.2 billion. So that was the first question. And then the second question was, what additional staff positions were added to the general fund? And that was a good question. I neglected to say that. I said that there were additional positions. So those positions were positions that we hired during the year, and so we needed to add them. They were in budgeted positions. We needed to add them to next year's budget. We added a technology technician, 1 FTE, a maintenance secretary at the warehouse, a 1 FTE, and then a district office secretary, 0.5 FTE. And then the last question was, what is the process to increase the school library services budget? And that's function 2222. And the process for the budget committee at this point is they do have the authority to change the superintendent's proposed budget. The budget committee could make a motion to recommend to increase that proposed budget. After the budget committee recommends the proposed budget to the school board, and the budget committee recommends to the school board by approving the proposed budget, the board also has the authority to change the approved budget. And so that happens in June at the next board meeting. The board will adopt the 21-22 budget. So my point is, if the budget committee increases it, the board could turn around and decrease it. Not that they will. I just want you to know what the process is, so that there's another step in the budget process.
Hey, Sherry, can you point to us where that is in the budget?
Absolutely. So if you turn to your budget book, G1, you'll see it for the first time, you'll see it there. And so that's the total that has been included in the proposed budget. You'll see that it's approximately $19,000 increase. So it's 2222. Did everyone find that on G1? It says school library services. But
Yeah.
the increase was all salary and benefit increases. And so then if you go to H19, you'll see the detail. And when you look at H19, you'll see that the purchase services, supplies, and materials and other objects didn't change at all. And that's where I mentioned last week that most department and building budgets were budgeted at status quo. so that we could balance the budget because we had a shortfall. We could have reduced those line items. We were able to balance without reducing, but keeping them the same. And so the library budget didn't have an increase, just like the other. And then Kevin, I thought I had an email and I thought maybe you'd want to speak to, I think there are plans that you're looking at the needs of the library at this point, and there's potential for using some of the federal grant relief funds.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different, I guess I'd like to hear from, I'm not sure who wrote this, because then just get a little bit more information about what some thoughts are. Because one of the things around school library services in our SIA plan, and I don't remember if it was in our Plan B or in our fully funded, we had additional library staffing. And so there was really a talk, because we really have one certified librarian right now for the district. That committee felt, that worked on our SIA plan, felt another investment in another librarian, certified librarian with that library media background would be beneficial. And I think it was specifically targeted. So kind of one at the secondary, which is where we currently have one, and one at the elementary. So sort of two with an additional support. Or again, there's opportunities as we look at how to support kind of on electronic books. And that's kind of through ESSER and different things, and even just getting additional resources and books into the hands of kids. There is certainly opportunities where I think COVID relief and some of those certainly falls into that period of investment. I think the other part would be is kind of through our, where do we need additional tutoring services and some of that. I think, again, there's opportunities to increase sort of support library materials. But I don't know that I'll let I'm not sure, again, other people on the committee about where would some additional investments be wanted or needed in this area.
Well, Kevin, that was me. Shocker, right? This is the same thing I ask every year. No, my concern also, and I know that we had talked about it under the Student Investment Act, but I also recall it kind of got bumped down onto a lower tier.
Yeah.
And then I also had the concern of, we are adding these fabulous programs, but if we're not adding any supplementary materials for the kids in the libraries, I mean, it's great and all, but they don't have any other reference points or other ways to explore those things if we don't increase the budget because books are not getting cheaper.
Yeah. So I think that
was my concern and why I asked that question. And because when I looked at that line item, I figured it was all salary.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point for now. I will take this as kind of note, and I'll take a look at our SAA. And I think kind of to piggyback on what Sherry said with yesterday's forecast, one thing that we maybe now, we don't have any final, and this is where I think every year, I think our budget committees end up in these situations where this, especially in these years where the legislature hasn't passed in a final budget. So yesterday's forecast was very positive, and what that sort of signals is potentially full funding for the SIA. And if you remember last time I shared, we are an increase, but it was still about 75% funded. The message that we got yesterday was it may be 100% funded. So there will be additional resources potentially in SIA that we can come back and again, take a closer look at that about where might be some really good investments around this. And so this is certainly noted. I think more in the general fund, that's not where we'll fund this at this particular moment, but I think it's, again, there is resources to help. The other part is, Sherry kind of mentioned, the forecast looks strong. We were pretty much told today in our superintendent meeting to plant like 9.3 now is the floor of the budget that they believe. And again, it's not passed. So again, you can't really take this to the bank quite yet. But we built this budget on 9.2, and I can't remember the exact number, Sherry, you'd have to help me. It was like 160,000 is sort of built in. Again, we were using some one-time funds to balance this. And so in many ways, some of these are choices that we'll make down the road, but it is additional resources that again, can really go to needs. And that's really, I think we have to make some decisions as we have more resources. And again, the board will get to have that as that becomes sort of final of where should we invest some of those additional resources.
And Sherry, can we back up to question 1? Wait a minute. Is that 1? What was 1? Shoot, I can't remember what it was.
Want me to pull it back up?
Yeah, would you please? I don't have enough computers open here to.
It was the reading adoption.
Oh, that was my question. That was the curriculum that was like 12 years behind or some really,
Yeah, I
Like-
believe that that's pretty accurate.
okay. So do we know when the next one, because I know we just did foreign language, or we started on that. What's the next one how soon is the next one? That's what I'm trying to ask.
I think Tiffany could answer that better, but I believe it's math and it's the next year.
Okay, that's what I thought I remembered. Is
And
it
my
as expensive?
understanding, 500,000 is the current estimate.
It's not, usually ELA is the most expensive adoption that we do. Math is the second most expensive. And then there's everything else. They usually are less, partly because we end up getting into more, once you get beyond ELA and math. Science is probably the next one that's bigger, but we have kind of less, there's usually less science materials as we start spreading that around. Again, there's just a big more focus on the math, English language arts side of things. So those are the two most expensive. And then there is the state has changed this adoption cycle quite a bit, partly due to finances, partly due to changes in standards. So the ELA was supposed to be last year. It got pushed off because of COVID. Science, it was also a couple years ago, got pushed off because of the national science standards and a huge change in science curriculum, science standards. ELA, again, we are definitely well behind in the ELA adoption. I know Tiffany can reiterate this. We are well overdue, and our curriculum does not currently match the current standards that exist. And there was a pretty accelerated standards that happened. I know Tiffany could help me with this. It was like 5 or 6 years ago where they really changed the expectations for what kids, I'd almost say almost a grade level higher in expectations. And it's hard to hand the kindergarten or the first grade curriculum down to kindergarten and try to do that. But that, if you look at it, that's basically what it looks like. So yeah, we have definitely a need in the ELA, and we're excited to go through that process here this year and have some new curriculum in the hands of our staff by next fall. We will have the resources. We have a good chunk of money set aside. We'll have some additional resources. Again, that's we'll have a better idea in the coming months around our estimated cost with that. And so when we have some additional revenues coming in, which we can, Sherry kind of gave, there's kind of multiple pots of money coming. There's additional revenue that I just recently negotiated with the Oregon Virtual Academy. I don't have a final tally of that. It's going to be kind of a guess for next year, but that's additional revenue not included in this budget. That again can be placed in that for either this curriculum purchase or down the road. So again, I think those are some things that our board will get to make that decision here in the near future. Really, really positive decisions to have some additional money versus coming to you saying, oh, we don't have as much money as we thought. So some of it is projected at this point. So I wish I could give you exact figures, but that's not quite possible. I know Tiffany will reiterate the need for curriculum in multiple areas. And so it's a commitment that we need to have as a district moving forward.
Are there any other questions or anything from the committee?
Hi, this is Elaine. I had a question, and my apologies for not coming up with it sooner. I don't mean to put you all on the spot at the 7th hour here, but first of all, I just want to say I appreciate all the work that Kevin and Sherry and district staff put into this task of developing this budget. And I had a really interesting conversation this week with Wade Lester that made me think a little bit more about school environments as we emerge from the COVID restrictions. Kevin, you went into some detail about the counseling staff that are on board and poised to help students with this idea of resetting as they re-enter the school system. But I also wanted to just ask real quickly, are we feeling prepared financially to address the needs of students who may have found that they actually thrived in an online school setting? Like they kind of liked staying home and working their classroom through the computer, will they still be able to do that to meet their social and learning needs? Or I was thinking, like, you know, kids who have colds, what a great idea if you could not have to send your sick kid to school with a head cold anymore, because they could just Zoom into the classroom. So can we keep some of those pieces in place?
That's a great question. I know all levels are working on plans to do that. I don't know if I have a few building principals on here. I know Daryl has worked to kind of begin a pathway for online and online supports for a group of kids, as well as our Bridges Alt Ed program. So the high school, Daryl can talk a little bit, and we are making plans at our other levels as well. We did an initial survey, and again, I think Bruce and Tim have done some stuff at the elementary level. What was interesting is kind of at the K1 level, probably not surprising, not much interest in that, like for our youngest kids. And so we're not really seeing potentially needing to do a lot of support there. And we do have our virtual charter school that may be able to help, but they are putting plans together and staff set aside to help. And it might be like a 2, 3, and a 4, 5. So they'll have like 2 grade levels together, combine schools together, and being able to support. But I'll let Daryl talk just briefly, because he has some vision around the high school for online for students, especially at the high school level.
Sure, thank you. So we did include that option as part of our forecasting process, where families could select, informing us as to whether their preference was to remain online when the next year starts, 2021, 22. Initially, we had about 80 families, and that dropped down to 65 once kids came back in person. We are going through the process of contacting those families again, and we're finding that once again, a lot of families are feeling more comfortable coming back and are planning on returning in fall. We went from believing we could have a core class at each grade level to now, similar to the elementary level, we'll probably be combining 2 grade levels to have a core class of multi-age students, so an 11-12 class, as well as a 9-10 class. We did not have clusters of elective choices that allowed us to do dedicated online electives. And so what we are offering is that any students that are choosing to take core classes online, they can come to school in person for those CTE classes, music classes, arts classes that they're interested in taking. Also, we're not saying you have to choose one or the other. We are giving students the choice to be hybrid if they choose. And they also have a choice of Edgenuity electives. And there's actually a pretty robust catalog of elective classes in Edgenuity they could take. Additionally, they could choose to do work study programs. Math is another area where we're not offering live classes taught online. A lot of our research around that has shown us that those are not effective methods. So for math, we are encouraging those students to come on to campus. However, if they're not coming onto campus, we will have, again, Edgenuity classes, and those can be supported by tutors next year, as we've already begun the process of having a tutoring center.
Thanks, Daryl. Bruce, you want to talk a little bit about elementary? Or you, Sammy, you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna, this is probably way off topic, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I agree with you about the math, not perhaps being the most successful online, but you know, the videos that they could watch, that the teachers made, that they could watch again and again, that was very helpful.
And they are planning on keeping that.
Good, because that was fantastic, I thought. Because yeah, you just can't speed through it, but being able to review it was fantastic. Okay, now I'll be quiet.
I completely agree, Sammy.
Kevin, at the elementary level, we found, we've done a survey, and we really found that we had 170 kids online currently. And out of that 170 kids, it's been shrinking a little bit from a high of around 200 down to that number. And as we did our survey, we really found it fitting. We basically had thirds as we went through. About a third of the kids absolutely were coming back. A little over a third of them said, well, maybe it depends. Do we have to wear a mask? What's the COVID? What's the shots gonna? And then a little less than a third said, yes, we'd like to stay online. And that survey took place about a month and a half ago. Some initial information that we've been gathering is some of those kids are wanting to come back. They've changed their mind. Even some of those solid no's have changed. We're going to survey again as we hit that just before the end of the year and see where people sit with some of the new changes that are happening out there and see how comfortable people are and make some decisions. We have not hired for the online positions yet. We have some staff members that would be willing to do that, but we want to make sure we have enough kids that want to participate in that. And the numbers are shrinking currently, so we hate to hire somebody and find out we have 6 or 7 kids, per grade level or per cluster. That really wouldn't do what we need to. The other thing we found is it really kind of takes a special type of kiddo to do that. We've got some kiddos, when they go online, if the parents are involved with them, it works very well. Those that are just left alone to do the online don't do near as well. So we've seen some mixed results in there. And teachers, as we sat down and talked about that, said, really, even though they say they want to be online, they're not learning the way they should. They're not getting out of this because there's really not the involvement and the parents aren't following through at that point. Due to COVID and some of the flexibility we had in participation, a little more flexibility, I think if we increase the rigor where we hope to, some folks would probably opt to come back versus stay online. When we really sit down and have that talk with them, what it's going to look like next year and what we need you to do to get your kids to the point where they're going to learn at the level we feel comfortable with.
From a financial perspective, this is a kind of a challenging year around again, probably not much different than last year, just a lot of unknowns. You would have think 12 months later that we would have fewer, but there is still a lot of kind of just question marks. Stuff that's happened over the last even 24 hours, just no outside mask wearing, allowing some teachers, vaccination, kind of pushing some of this thing around. That's allowing some kids to participate in a different way, our teachers to show up in a different way. It's a signal that we're heading down a path of what will feel like a typical school year. And so we're hopeful in that regard. But again, I think parents are waiting and wanting to see our commitment and our plans about what next year is going to look like. And then I think some of these, we'll get some more solid information. I don't know if you want to hear, I know John's on the call as well, just a little bit about middle school online. John, I think I saw John.
Yeah, I'm here. So middle school, we have the flexibility to do whatever's needed. We have a lot of teachers in each grade level that have been doing the online component. And we have started to build our master schedule, but we're hoping to not have any online unless it's needed. Right now we're over 100, but over half have said they're coming back. And the other half is they're not doing well and parents aren't supporting them. They're home for a variety of reasons. The half that are not doing well on CDL will probably be coming back, I would guess, for the most part.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate that.
Elaine, you have 2 screens open, by the way.
Yeah, that's because my laptop's tired after Zooming for a year, so I have to use my phone for the audio.
Okay.
Did the committee have any additional questions? Any other discussion items?
I wish I had more questions, but you guys do such a good job that don't need to ask any.
We don't have additional questions. Do we have a motion to adopt the 21-22 budget?
I'll move to approve the district 2021-22 budget at an individual fund appropriation levels proposed as listed on page D2. Approval of the permanent rate limit of $4.1626 per 1,000 for the general fund and approval the amount of the tax levy for bonded indebtedness of, oh boy, big numbers, 1,323,323. I like that. Debt service fund.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like our budget's approved. Yay.
Before you go to adjourn, because I know people will probably just leave, I just want to introduce a couple quick people here. Marie Dudgeon is here. She's our new Human Resource Director. I don't know if Marie, you want to just introduce yourself real quickly. No one really in our district has met Marie because we have been Zooming. I don't know if Marie is there to say hi. Marie will be joining us on July 1st.
Hi, good evening. It's nice to meet you.
Marie's joining us. She's currently, Marie, give us just a quick background. I'll probably muck up your current title.
I am a labor relations consultant with the Oregon School Boards Association.
She has a kind of strong background in other human relations and some business services, and kind of comes with been in some other districts. So yeah, we're looking forward to having her join here near North Bend. She's been a frequent traveler to our ocean beaches and dunes, and it's I've been telling people she's moved to our her summer playground is now going to be her permanent home. So
yes, we're very excited to be moving.
Glad to have her. And I know we have, I know a couple of our newer board members will be joining us in July, have also joining. I don't know if Julie, if you want to say hi. Put them on the spot here.
I have to figure out how to use it. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi.
Julie, you want just a quick introduction?
I'm Julie Thies. I just was elected for position 6. I'm really excited to get to have the opportunity to serve on the school board. I'm really excited.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I know these are all exciting times. So exciting meetings. Thanks, Karen. I don't think we have anybody else. It's our other board members or any new staff that have joined us. I guess if I missed anybody, please speak up. I didn't want to, I'm not intentionally missing anyone, but I saw Marie's name show up there. I wanted to make sure we introduced her.
I'd like to say goodbye to Sherry and thank her for all the work she's done for the school district.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much, Sherry. Any other announcements or anything for the committee?
Not for the committee, but I'm just glad to see another one of our teachers got another big award.
Yes, yay.
What is that? 3 in the last year and a half?
Yeah.
Frank and Ms. Geierman and Thomas Hample. We're racking them up.
Fantastic.
I got this cool shirt this weekend.
Our softball, with your background, it doesn't show up very well.
Hold on, let me remove my triangle of power here. I got this sweet softball complex shirt. Stephen and I were at the ribbon cutting this weekend. That was pretty awesome. Thanks, Mike, for that. That was sweet. It was very nice words you had for Sherry. Sherry, he had nothing but mostly complimentary things to say about you. We're going to miss you quite a bit. So now do we just move to adjourn? I mean, are we just going to sit here and stare at each other maybe?
Can we start? Do I need a motion to adjourn or?
Move to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Bye, everyone.
Opposed?
Bye.
I appreciate
Thank you,
your
guys.
time. Thanks for being here.
Yep, great job tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Yes.